family orientation for parents, guardians, and other family members. Thank you for joining us. And we'll have just a couple words about logistics. So we're using a Zoom room tonight, which means that everyone except the speaker is muted. And we're using the chat for questions and comments and engagement with one another. So if you write a question in the chat, one of us will notice the question and we'll attempt to answer your question as we go. And also, if you like, you can change your view. So in the upper right-hand corner, you can toggle between speaker view and gallery view. If you'd like to see the speaker in a bigger image, you can change that, or you can see everyone on the first page of the gallery if you prefer. And the live transcription is enabled. So if you'd like to turn on the closed captioning, you can do that. And you can see the words come across your screen in English as well. Also, we wanted to let you know that we're recording tonight for family members who cannot make it, and also so that we can later do some translation to simplified Chinese and to Korean, and we'll have those closed captions in English as well later. So thank you for joining us. All right, and the next slide, please, Andy. I'd like to introduce you first to Dr. Richard Huey, who is our Interim Vice Provost in the Division of Global Engagement, and he's Vice Provost and Dean of Undergraduate Education. He's also a Professor of Computer Science and Engineering and of Biomolecular Engineering. Dr. Huey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, and I'd like to welcome all of you to our family orientation and global engagement. I wanted to say a few words about the experiences that your student is going through right now and some of the experiences that they will have over the next several years. As Lisa mentioned, I'm both a long time associated with the Division of Global Engagement as the Interim Vice Provost, so helping all the units who are helping specifically international students. I'm also the Vice Provost of Undergraduate Education, which includes overseeing the colleges and the college program, very successful review with, and several other units. So I'm always paying attention to students and how we can help them. And so I always like it when I hear about things when they go great, when maybe they need some adjustment. I'm here to be a contact and a reference. A little bit later in this program, you'll be hearing about some of the resources that we're going to that we have already talked to your students about. And also throughout the whole process of orientation, your students have learned about the many, many different opportunities that they have to really make education research or an internship or a mentorship or some other program. And we have a lot of these that are structured just for undergraduates. So for example, we have a Koret Scholars program and a College Scholars program and a Koret Research Scholars program that can help tie students into research opportunities very early on in their time as a student. We also have many other great programs like the Chancellor's Undergraduate Internship Program that helps with leadership development and other opportunities. And surprisingly, one of the ones, or maybe not surprisingly, many of our international, maybe they wanted to take a field study course in environmental sciences, or maybe they want to study at one of the University of California's centers at UC Center Sacramento, which is the state capital for California, or UCDC, which is, of course, is in Washington, DC. And a few students study abroad as well. I remember one international student who completed an exchange quarter, a domestic exchange quarter in New Hampshire, and international studies in Switzerland. and then also interned with the World Trade Organization. So there are many different possibilities, and I'd like to encourage you to encourage your student to make sure to do their research and to think about possibilities and to plan their education, to plan the opportunities associated with their major or associated with the campus that they would like to take part in. So I'm delighted that you have entrusted your students with UC Santa Cruz. And I know that many of them are now here on campus. Some of them will be coming to Santa Cruz in a later quarter. And whichever case your student is in, we're here to support their studies and their education. I'm now very happy to present our Vice Chancellor of University Relations, Mark Davis.
Thank you, Richard. Good evening and morning, everyone, from all parts of the world from where you're joining us today. I am Mark Bayless Davis, Vice Chancellor for University Relations, and on behalf of all my colleagues at the university, welcome to UC Santa Cruz. We're delighted that your student has decided to enroll at our university and are equally excited by what they will learn and achieve while they're here. This is an extraordinary university that is leading at the intersection of creativity, innovation, and social impact. Those traits are in our DNA and hopefully what attracted your student to the university as well. We hope that your students will pursue opportunities and activities while they're here that support their educational experience and their professional goals long after they graduate. Our faculty include 12 members of the National Academy of Sciences, 25 members of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, 36 members of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The outstanding strength and breadth of the university's faculty enables the university to offer some extraordinary programs that your students will participate in. I too am new to the university, having recently moved to Santa Cruz in California. I also joined the university during the pandemic and only in the last 3 weeks started working from the physical campus. Especially during these times, I have found UC Santa Cruz to be an extraordinarily welcoming community, one that supports our students while challenging each individual to grow and learn to become better learners, scholars, and leaders. I also can appreciate the lens through which you're viewing this new adventure by your student. I too attended a university in a country other than my own. I received my graduate degree from Tsinghua in Beijing. That experience was life-changing for me. I created friendships and professional colleagues from throughout the world that I continue to maintain to this day. I call upon them for advice, for ideas, for their network, and most importantly, for laughs, celebrations, and for friendships. And while it was life-changing for me, I imagine that my parents, although they too traveled the world when they were young, had mixed emotions from my decision to move abroad. Even at that time, I was very much an older student. I had traveled internationally for work significantly before this time, but moving somewhere was different. Certainly the distance is one thing. My lack of mastery of the local language was another. My not knowing practically anyone in the city. However, what your students will realize soon enough is their ability to adapt and grow and learn how to be resilient, traits that we all are being challenged to embrace now in this current environment. Most importantly, my family supported my decision and cheered me on, just like you're doing today. They were there to take my calls when I was homesick, send me goodie bags to remind me that they care, and simply just listen to their son describe all the things he was learning and experiencing in a beautiful city and country in a different part of the world. We're excited about how we will work together with you in supporting your student success and that you are now part of the UC Santa Cruz family. Thank you very much for joining us and thank you for supporting your students' decision to come to UC Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, Richard. And we'll go to the next slide. I'd like to say just a couple of words about the Division of Global Engagement. So tonight you have members of two teams with you, starting in the lower left-hand corner, the Global Programming Team, and we do orientations, events, and programs to support international students and global learning students, and all students who want to engage cross-culturally. And then we have the division, the unit International Student and Scholar Services, and they do immigration and other forms of support for your international student. They'll be speaking to you a bit later. We also have the Global Learning Team that Richard mentioned that supports study abroad and also study away programs in other parts of the US. And lastly, we have Global Initiatives, and they help us with partnerships between universities and special programs. Thank you. Next slide, please, Andy. So the Global Programming Team is with you tonight. I'm Lisa. And like Mark and Richard and many others, everyone on the Global Programming Team has studied outside or lived outside their home countries for significant periods of time. So we would like to support your international student in their adjustment to life at UC Santa Cruz in the same way that our colleague universities supported us when we crossed cultures. And I'm joined next by Andy. I'll pass to him to say hello.
Yes, thank you so much, Lisa. And again, just wanted to welcome everybody to this space tonight. It's always very exciting to see so many people come together, even for a Zoom call, to be able to share in this moment together. And it's great to see that all of you have chosen to be part of this family too at UC Santa Cruz. So again, my name is Andy. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm one of the 2 global programming coordinators on the team with global programming. So like Lisa mentioned, our jobs are to help facilitate social engagements, workshops, and different programs to help your students articulate and learn about how to live and how to prosper here in their new environment at UC Santa Cruz. We work very closely with International Student and Scholar Services, and to make sure that all of our students feel supported, we provide different resources and different opportunities for leadership development and growth outside of the classroom. So we're very excited that your students are here with us. We're excited to meet them very soon, safely in person, and to be able to share in this moment with all of you. So we know that it's going to be a very special few couple of years for all of us in this space together. So again, welcome.
And passing to Victoria.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa and Andy. And hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Hudak, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm the other global programming coordinator within the global programming team. I help to do a lot of social and cultural and other events such as those and programs for mostly international students. I also especially work with Andy very closely with working with many of our student workers who are a mix of international and domestic students through our global mentorship program, which is a peer-to-peer program. These are international and domestic students that help our new first-year international students and some of our junior transfer and exchange students help kind of have that built-in buddy system to help them adjust to life here at UC Santa Cruz. And we've started making these connections over the internet before students are starting, and hopefully we have stronger connections as we're slowly but cautiously moving to in-person events. And we are looking forward to working with your students as we move forward into this new quarter. And it's nice to meet all of you tonight. All right, and I'll hand this back to Lisa.
Thank you, Victoria. And we'll go to the next slide. I see there's a question that's quite suitable to where we are at the moment in the presentation. So Ms. Sayad is asking, who should I reach through email to ask about social security number, bank account opening, etc. So now we're joined by the International Student and Scholar team. Adrian Bergenfeld will say hello, and I'll drop their email into the chat. They're the folks that would help with those kinds of questions. Adrian.
Great. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are in the world today. We're so excited to have you. Most of my team is not joining us today, but I'll do a short introduction. And then we also have Gabi Schmiegel, who's with us today. So my name is Adrian Bergenfeld. I'm the Assistant Director of International Student Services. I am the primary individual who oversees the student team, ensuring that your students are getting the documents they need, getting the assistance that they need, and helping to connect them with the different departments within the University of California, Santa Cruz. ISSS works very closely with global programming to really ensure that we have that support for your students. We have some more slides, but I'll let Gabi go ahead and introduce herself first. Gabi?
Thank you, Adrian. Hello, everybody. My name is Gabi Schmiegel, and I'm the Assistant Director for Sponsored Student Programs, which means that I primarily work with students who receive either a US government or foreign government scholarship or who are funded by an employer. But I also want to let you know that I used to be an international student. So I very well remember how my parents felt or my mom felt when I left for the US. And I've worked with international students for about 27 years now. So between Adrian and me and Vanessa, who's the International Student and Scholar Advisor in our office, your student is going to be very well taken care of.
Thanks, Gabi. I'd also like to take this opportunity to introduce two other teammates. Well, I'll give you a little bit more about Vanessa. Vanessa Ori is our International Student and Scholar Advisor. So you'll be talking, or your student will be talking to either Gabi, myself, or Vanessa the majority of the time while they're at UCSC. Also, we have incredible teammates of Lena Lee, who is our CVIS and Applications Coordinator. Lena's responsible for ensuring that the database that we use and the information that students are entering is correct. So she may be in touch with your students also. Lastly, but not least, is Madison Lucero, who is the Global Engagement Office Manager. So she's pretty much the first person that your students will have interactions with. And then she is really great about directing them to the best source of who they should be talking to. Next slide, please. I thought it was me.
Thanks, Adrian. Yes, now we're going to speak just briefly about tonight's agenda. And we tonight will have folks from Student Business Services with us to explain about making payments to the university. That can be a bit confusing. We have someone from Student Health and Counseling talking about health and counseling support for students and a little bit about protocols for COVID testing and quarantining, things like that that are so important. We have someone from Campus Safety with us tonight talking about safety on campus. And then we'll be talking about the UCSC college system, academics, and advising how all of that works. And lastly, we'll go back to the global engagement team, and then Adrian will get to say a little bit more about ISSS, and we'll speak a little bit more about global programming support at that time, and then questions and answers before we say good night or good morning. So next up, we have Victoria Lipscomb, who joins us from Student Business Services, and she'll talk a little bit about all the important things related to business services. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. As Lisa said, my name is Victoria Lipscomb. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the financial literacy coordinator here on campus. So what that means is I run the financial literacy program for your students. I am within Student Business Services, which is the department that handles billing. So we're going to talk about paying your student's bill because we do have a few ways that you and your student can go ahead and pay the bill. Next slide, please. So a large question that we get pretty often is when your bill is due, when to pay. So students are going to receive a bill once a quarter, and they may also receive a bill once a month. Quarterly bills are going to be the bills that include tuition charges, on-campus housing, registration fees, and meal plans. Monthly bills may include payment plan charges if your student is on a payment plan, and miscellaneous charges for things like printing and library services. Normally, the charges are due about a month after the bill is produced on a student account. Now, the specific due date is listed on the bill, and it may not always be exactly a month after the bill is produced, so be sure to pay attention to each individual due date. Students can sign you up as an other payer on their billing account for you to be able to receive bill notifications. If you're signed up as an other payer, you will receive email notifications whenever a bill is created. You'll be able to view the bill and you'll have options to pay the bill. You won't have access to any other information on the student's account. We do have instructions in a video on how to sign people up as other payers on our website. Next slide, please. So how to pay? We do have a lot of different options for payments. We're going to break it down into domestic and international payments. Next slide, please. So first, our domestic or USA only payment options. So if you or your student have a domestic bank account, you can pay the bill with a check, money order, or a cashier's check from the domestic bank. You can also use the UCSC eBill ePay system, which is our online payment system, to pay the bill directly from your bank account for free using an electronic bank transfer. If your student is on campus, they can also pay with cash at our office in Hans Student Services. If your student has a 529 plan in the USA, you may pay your student's bill from the 529 plan online for a $10 fee or by mail for free. Next slide, please. Now here are international payment options. So our eBill ePay portal does take Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express with a 4.25% fee for international cards. Now Flywire is another option online, and they take all debit and credit cards as well as electronic bank transfers from almost any bank around the world. Fees can vary based on the exchange rate for Flywire, but in general, there is a 2% fee on electronic bank transfers and a 4% fee on credit and debit card payments. Flywire can also do international wire transfers to UCSC. You can also use Western Union and MoneyGram to send money to UCSC for your student's bill, but there may be additional fees for those services. Next slide, please. Flywire is the easiest and normally the cheapest way to pay for your student's bill if you don't have a bank account with a domestic financial institution. Flywire allows you to pay using your country's currency with competitive exchange rates, and it's very secure and allows you to track your payment to make sure it gets to UCSC correctly. There's also multilingual support available. And for students who may receive refunds, Flywire is a safe and easy way for UCSC to send refunds to a student, even if they don't have a domestic bank account or if they've returned to their home country. So we really recommend Flywire as the best payment option for international students. Next slide, please. And with that, we have time for questions. I know I saw a few things pop up in the chat. Our website is listed on the screen, and on the website, you can find videos and other tutorials on things like how to pay your bill, how to add an other payer, and more information. We also have our email and phone listed. If your student is on campus, they can visit us in person Monday through Friday from 1 to 4 in Hans Student Services. So let's see. We enrolled in the Summer Edge program, but we were charged insurance. So students are normally charged insurance. There is a way to waive the insurance. The insurance is called UC Ship here on campus. There is a waiver process, and that is, I believe, through the health center. Instead of monthly, can we pay 6 months at a time? So here at UCSC, we actually run on a quarter system. So you would not be able to pay multiple quarters at a time. Unfortunately, you can only pay per quarter as the charges come in. The system won't let you pay ahead of time. Any other questions?
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Maybe if you hang out for a couple more minutes in case questions come through, and we'll go to our next speaker. The next slide, please. Thank you. And now we're joined by Anastasia Alexandrovskaya from the Student Health Center. Anastasia.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, family members. My name is Anastasia Alexandrovskaya, and I am the International Student Case Manager here at UCSC. I work with the Student Health Center and with CAPS, which is Counseling and Psychological Services. Here is my phone number and my email. And like I mentioned, my specialty is working with international students, and I speak English, Russian, and conversational Spanish. Next slide. So the services that I provide for your students is assisting them in navigating health services. So that can look like getting connected to off-campus care, understanding insurance, helping them get referrals, as well as mental health services. So I am a licensed psychotherapist, so I can support students with therapy or counseling regarding the stressors of being an international student. I can also help with understanding academic options and connecting them to resources both on and off campus. And I have also been part of the COVID team, so I can answer a lot of questions about what our support systems for COVID look like as well. Next slide. So for students that are on campus or living in California, they are able to access the Student Health Center. We are open between 8:30 and 5. And they are able, what we request now is for students to call ahead of time to make an appointment, even if it is for a same day appointment. We also do have telehealth appointments or phone appointments, which a student can receive remotely as long as they're in California. So for both CAPS, counseling and psychological services, as well as medical appointments, we are only able to serve students that are located in California due to our medical licensure. If your student that is in California is needing support and is not feeling well, we also have a 24-hour nurse advice line that they can call outside of business hours. And that's the phone number at the bottom. Next slide. So this is a great cheat sheet. I know that healthcare services look different in the United States than they do in a lot of countries. I myself grew up overseas in Russia and things looked very different. So sometimes having a concise way to know how to get medical care is helpful. This is on our website, but this gives a great summary of how to access care depending on what your student is experiencing, whether it is something that they need to be seen today, like an injury or a cold versus an emergency or routine appointment. So this is on our website, and it's a great quick way for a student to figure out what kind of care they can get and how to get that care. Next slide. So I work in the Student Health Center, but I'm also part of the Counseling and Psychological Services team, which is here to support the mental health needs of your students. So we offer a lot of different services, including individual counseling. So a student can call our front desk to set up an appointment for an IA or an initial assessment, which will kind of determine what kind of support that we provide. We also have brief drop-in sessions for students that are just stressed out and need, some advice or a little bit of guidance that are 15-minute sessions. And those are going to be both virtual and in person. And the in-person ones will be spread around campus, so they'll be accessible to students. We also do a lot of groups. A lot of these groups are skill building groups. So if your student just wants to learn how to manage anxiety, manage mood, get some support from their fellow peers, this is a great way for them to get that support. And there is a schedule on our website that students can look at to see what groups we're offering. We also do have psychiatry for medication management, which can be students coming with medication they're already on, or students that are interested in initiating medication management. And like I mentioned before, CAP services as well as medical services can only be offered to students that are physically in California. Next slide. So insurance is a big question. I did see somebody asked about insurance earlier in the chat. So students are automatically enrolled in UC SHIP, and there is a waiver process that is on the Student Health Center website. I know the deadline for fall was September 15th. However, there are sometimes exceptions. So if you want to email the insurance team, which their email is on the website under insurance, to talk about a waiver, there sometimes can make accommodations for parents and students that didn't know what the process was. So I recommend doing that to see if that could be one of those cases. But UC SHIP is great coverage. So it has little to no copays compared to other insurances. A lot of international students will come with insurances that they purchased in their home country, and unfortunately find that there isn't much of a network of providers that will take that insurance locally. And so it becomes very difficult to find care for students with other insurances. Most on-site services at the Student Health Center are free of charge. And then in order to see someone off campus using the SHIP insurance, you have to get a referral from one of our on-campus clinicians. And this is something that can be done as easily in a phone appointment as well. And just for you to know and your students to know, they're not going to get a physical card in the mail. They can download their insurance card in an electronic format. Next slide. And so this is another visual that I find helpful that can show how quickly costs can accumulate with different kinds of insurances. So these are 3 hypothetical students that came in for the same thing, which was a sore throat. So somebody with UC SHIP coming to the Student Health Center will walk out of that appointment with a $7 bill, while somebody with private insurance can walk out with a $329 bill. And then somebody with Cruise Care, which is a supplementary insurance for students that are not on UC SHIP, would walk out with a bill that's around $51. So it's just something to consider when you're making a decision to waive UC SHIP, is that the most accessible healthcare that they can get on campus is at the Student Health Center. And without that UC SHIP coverage, it can get pretty expensive. Next slide. So COVID vaccine requirements. So all students that are accessing campus for any reason, which might be living on campus, taking classes, going to the gym, any kind of access to campus, must be vaccinated with a WHO approved vaccine and submit proof of vaccination via Healthy Messenger, or complete the medical or religious withdrawal by September 9th. So we're a little bit past that deadline. Students that are remaining remote, so if your student is staying in their home country for the quarter or for several quarters, each quarter that they will be remote, they will need to complete a deferral form in order to be in compliance. And this can be done through the Students Health eMessenger, and you can find it under downloadable forms. It's called the COVID-19 remote deferral form. Next slide. So COVID-19 testing. So students that are arriving to campus, which they just did, we had our 4 move-in days. So most students are on campus, regardless of vaccination status, needed to come with a negative test. Those students that were not able to obtain that test, or those, the time of the test was longer than 72 hours, we tested them immediately as they came in before they moved into their dorms. And vaccinated students will have to provide 1 more negative test by the end of September, after which testing is voluntary. Unvaccinated students, including those that are not yet 2 weeks past their last shot in the vaccine series, will have to test twice a week, every 4 days, until they are fully vaccinated. So for some international students that came to us that were under the age of 18, were not able to get vaccinated until they arrived in order to get the Pfizer vaccine. So they will have to be tested every 4 days until they are 2 weeks past that second dose in order to stay in compliance. Next slide. And then just so to give you the information on the precautions that we're taking for COVID and what kind of support that we have, students that test positive for COVID will be moved to special units on campus that are specifically for isolation. Those units will have their own room, their own bathroom, and they will have food delivered to that room. Isolation is 10 days from either the onset of symptoms or from the date of a positive test if that student did not have symptoms. Unvaccinated students in close contact, so more than 15 minutes together with less than 6 feet apart, will need to quarantine for 14 days. Again, if these are on-campus students, they will be moved into quarantine housing where they can complete that time. And then vaccinated students will not need to isolate upon exposure unless they develop symptoms. So we'll ask students to monitor for 14 days past their last exposure to a positive person. And if they do develop symptoms, then we will need to test them to see if they are also COVID positive. Next slide. And that is all of my information for you today. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I know with the context of health, it has been a really stressful time to have your student come to UCSC and to America. So feel free to ask any questions. I did see a few come in, so let me see if there's anything that I can answer. Oh, I see somebody was already answering for me, which is great. Great. Was there any questions that were not answered? Because I see most questions were.
I don't see anything now. Family members, please feel free to reach out to Anastasia if you think of something, or have your student reach out. And she's very responsive to international students' concerns in particular. So thank you, Anastasia, for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will go next to campus safety. We're joined tonight by Interim Chief of Police Lieutenant Mary Garcia. And Lieutenant Garcia is here to tell you a bit about safety on campus and the campus police.
Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to UC Santa Cruz, and we'll start with the video right off the top.
Hello, my name is Nader Awais, and I'm the Chief of Police with the UC Santa Cruz Police Department, and I welcome you to UC Santa Cruz. The Police Department is here to be a resource for you and your family in case you need us. Don't be afraid to approach us, say hello, or even take one of our Community Academy classes, which is offered every quarter. This year, it's going to be offered online.
In event of emergency, students, staff, faculty, and visitors can call 911 using their cell phones, landlines, and blue light emergency phones that are located throughout campus. These blue light phones connect callers directly with our 911 dispatch center, which is located at the very base of campus inside our police department. There are approximately 60 blue light phones located throughout campus. These are along pedestrian walkways, most bus stops, and in some of the large parking lots. Blue light phones are activated by pressing the large red button. A blue light beacon will shine to direct emergency personnel where to go. The emergency personnel will also get dispatched even if the caller can't speak on the line. Blue light phones are just another way to keep our campus safe.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Santini. I am a public safety dispatcher here on campus at UCSC. And I'm one of the 9 other voices that you would listen to or hear from if you called into our dispatch center. And you can do that one of a variety of ways. If you called on your cell phone on our non-emergency number, which is 831-459-2231 extension 1. If you called 911, if you dial their maintenance line or one of our CSO lines. If you call in to dispatch, there's a set of questions that we normally ask no matter what type of call. So it's who's calling, where are you calling from, what are you calling about, and then depending on the type of situation, you're gonna get, a varying degree of other questions, but the main focus is who, what, when, where, and why. And it's important for us that we ask those questions just so that we can make sure that you're safe and that whoever's going to be responding remains safe while doing so. It's very important when you call in that you remain a safe distance away from whatever emergency is occurring. If it's a crime or a fire, so be it, that you first take into consideration your own personal safety and the safety of those around you. Typically when you call into 911, we have an E911 map. So it's an electronic map that tries to use the coordinates of whatever phone you're calling from so that we can get a better sense of where you are. This system isn't perfect. It could be a varying degree of just giving us a broad spectrum range over the county or a specific down to a couple feet of where you're standing. We're also working on technology that would allow you to text us directly through a 911 system. Keep yourself at a distance that you feel comfortable with. Try to provide as much information as you can, and we will make sure that we get the help that is necessary to you as quickly as possible.
Here at UCSC, we're a full-service police department. We operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we handle calls all of those times. We work with all the campuses that are here in California, and we also work with local agencies. Here we commonly work with both the Sheriff's Office in Santa Cruz as well as Santa Cruz Police Department, California Highway Patrol, and any allied agencies. All the police officers you'll encounter at UCSC have statewide peace officer powers. What that means is that every police officer you encounter here on campus has the same authority as any other police officer. Say California Highway Patrol, deputy, city police. We are university police officers, but we all get the same training as any other law enforcement officer. So we go through the same type of training that a city police officer would go through. Here at UCSC, we handle everything from patrol, crime prevention, investigation, as well as working with the general community. More information about crime, statistics, and resources can be found at police.ucsc.edu. ucsc.edu.
The Cruise Alert system that we utilize here at UCSC, it's basically like a campus emergency alert system that'll send out like text messages or emails super quickly to students, staff, affiliates, anyone who is going to be on campus or is coming to campus or is leaving a campus. That way they have accurate, like real-time information coming from our police department. You can sign up, it's totally free at the UCSC website. Go to just type in Cruise Alert, you can search it. It's super easy to do so, and then you'll be signed up immediately, start getting alerts.
The City of Santa Cruz Fire Department is located on campus on Chicken Pen Road and McLaughlin Drive, between colleges 910 and Crown Merrill.
You can find out more about the UCSC Police Department by going to our website. You can just go to police.ucsc.edu for more information. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can just look up UCSC Police Department and you'll find us. Congratulations and welcome to UCSC.
Thank you, everyone. And so some of what I'm going to repeat is in the video, but it's good to emphasize how important your safety is. So we are committed to you, to your safety, to your child's safety, and we want to make sure that we partner with you to do this. We want to make sure that we make you aware of everything that's going on campus, and we ask that you report anything of concern to us. And we have 911, and we also have our business line, and we'll get those to you at the end of this slide. Next slide. While we are a very safe campus, some crime does happen here, and generally it's theft and property crime. And so we ask that you help us make sure our campus is safe and that things are secure so that your valuables are locked up, doors are not propped open, and that you're aware as you come and go through our campus and don't defeat mechanisms in the dorm rooms and or the dorm halls to let others in who do not belong and who may make the environment unsafe. Next slide. And just for personal safety, we ask that you pay attention, be aware of your surroundings, pay attention to animals, people, try to walk with groups, pay attention, stay in well-lit areas. We have lots of bike paths. Some of them are not as well-lit, and we want to hear about those so that we can work on those with the university. And we encourage you to use campus transportation and our Safe Ride service that we are working to bring back with a partnership with TAPS. And again, some of this is going to be repetitive, but pay attention to where the on-campus blue light phones are so that you're aware where those are, because our cell phone service is not always great on campus. So we encourage you to use other means to communicate emergencies or other things of concern, and the emergency phones are one way. Next slide. So as a campus, as an institute of higher education, we are required to report by federal law crime reports and statistics to the community, and it's all on our website. So you can go in there and look, as well as check our crime maps and our demographics for that. As far as Clery Act, it also requires different employees on campus to be campus security authorities. These include the CSOs and the housing units and several employees on campus. They're considered officials, and they have a responsibility to you as a student and to your students. And they are required to report to the police department. They don't have discretion over that. So when there is knowledge that they have of a crime or something that the police department needs to get involved in, they are required to report it to us. Next slide. And again, an official is anyone defined as someone with authority and duty to take action on behalf of the university. It includes deans of students, coaches, directors, faculty advisors, an RA, and even a volunteer, depending on what their role is in the capacity that they volunteer with UC Santa Cruz. Next slide. Another aspect of the Clery Act is that we must provide our community members timely warnings and emergency warnings to keep them safe. So I'll follow up more a little bit, but you will be receiving timely warnings via email and or through your My UCSC portal, as well as text messages should a student or parent sign up for the cruise alerts. And the cruise alerts are specific for emergencies or dangerous situations that are an immediate threat to your safety. This can include wildfires, dangerous animals, an act of violence on our campus. And so those will get out immediately to those who are signed up for cruise alerts. So I can't emphasize enough, please sign up for the cruise alert so you are aware of what is happening on our campus and you can maintain your safety as soon as possible. Next slide. So again, like I said, there's emergency notifications and timely warnings. The emergency notifications are the ones that you will receive by text and email almost instantly when we send it out. We just sent one out recently for a mountain lion, and we send those out with mountain lions, wildlife, and other imminent threats that show up on our campus, including last year with the wildfires. The timely warnings are the ones you will receive after the fact to alert you to things like a series of burglaries or thefts happening on campus so that you can stay safe and keep your property secure. And again, please sign up. It's on our website, it's on the university website, and we encourage you, please, please, please sign up for those cruise alerts as we move into the new school year. Next slide. Again, we ask that our community members partner with us and be eyes and ears for us. We can't be everywhere at once. And so when the community members call things in that are of concern to prevent crimes, violence, and maintain the safety, we value that and we encourage it. And we really want you to be a part of keeping us all safe. Next slide. Animals. So we are returning to a campus that has been mainly closed, and there's been a lot of animals that have been coming into residential areas and building areas that they normally would not have been. And so I want to remind everyone, it's still a wildlife creature. It has its, it's in its nature to forage and hunt and so forth. And like I said, we've had a mountain lion sighting. So I discourage selfies or attempting to feed them or take pictures too close. They are still animals and they could act out. So we want to make sure you all stay safe. Don't feed them. Don't try to capture them as pets. And make sure you're aware as you walk around campus, especially at dusk and at dawn, because some of the animals, that's when they're out looking for what they need to keep themselves full. Next slide. If you are an international student, you may have a visa or other status. So some of the consequences of either being arrested or being cited out on a ticket to appear in court could have consequences to your visa and other issues to your education here in the United States. We can have more conversations about that. I just encourage you that if you have any questions about anything, please ask us. Next slide. Again, we're a resource, but we can't do it without you. We want to be able to respond and assess situations and events because it's better when we can help you when it's happening rather than after the fact. And if you're not sure at that moment when you ask yourself, should we call the police? Then you probably should, because if you're asking yourself that question, then it's probably a situation where the police need to be involved to make sure everyone's safe. I encourage you to program the phone number that's 831-459-2231 into your cell phones. That's the non-emergency line. And as soon as the automated message system answers, press 1 and you'll speak directly to one of our dispatchers to get you assistance. Again, familiarize yourself with the blue phones throughout campus and use an elevator phone if you need. Next slide. We also hold a community academy every quarter. Since the pandemic and the closure this quarter, it will be in person at the police department. You can go to our website and look at the details and the requirements, and we'd really love to have you. You can learn about our police department, more about our campus, and more about, a little bit of what goes around in our community, and you'll tour different facilities related to, policing and our community interactions. Again, please sign up for Cruise Alert. Our website has a lot of information, including the crime mapping, the statistics, and more information about resources and Safe Ride. Next slide. And I did see a couple of questions. Thank you for the comments about the videos. I said it was a student volunteer who did it for us and it turned out great. Is there a special task force? We don't necessarily have a special task force. We do try to provide education and awareness resources for students. We do partner with California State Parks and other local agencies to get the message out, especially when we have sightings on campus. But we count on you. The last mountain lion sighting, it was a student who called it in. And so again, you all are our eyes and ears, and we appreciate it when you do that for us. If you have any further questions, please feel free to email us, go on our website and send an automated email. And if there is nothing else, again, welcome to UC Santa Cruz and thank you for joining us tonight.
There's one more question that came in about escort support or safe rides. They're asking, is it only within campus?
It's only within campus, and because of the limited resources we have now that we returned, we will have limited hours. And again, we're partnering with TAPS to provide that service. And so it will probably be limited hours than before. And one of the reasons is we need more student employees to be able to provide that service because they are the heart of that program. So if you are interested in being a student ambassador to do Safe Ride, please go to our website and look at the requirements or reach out to me directly via email or contact the police department.
Okay, thank you. Any last questions for Lieutenant Garcia? Oh, there's a question about driver's license. Yes, that's a good question to ask to the iStudent email. It's fairly complicated, but we can send you a link to what to do to get for a student to pursue a driver's license. All right. And we will go next to the UC Santa Cruz College System Academics and Advising. And we're joined tonight by Dr. Alan Christie. He's the Cowell College Provost, and also by Danielle Mello, who is our Associate Director of Academic Advising. Danielle and Alan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Danielle, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Alan.
Danielle and I both got here a little bit late because we've been in other things. What's the process for going forward in the
You just
slides?
tell them you're ready.
Yeah, tell us when to advance. We're ready. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I think you've kind of already been introduced. So this first slide is yours, Ellen. Go for it.
Yeah. So the colleges, we have 10 colleges currently. They were established beginning with the beginning of the campus in 1965. Cowell College, where I'm the provost, was the very first of them. And then we have, after that, Stevenson College, Merrill College, Crown College, Oaks College, Porter College, Kresge College, Rachel Carson College, and then two as yet unnamed colleges, colleges 9 and 10. So they're living and learning communities. And the original idea of the colleges was that students would be in small classes with each other and with professors, but that outside of those classes that they all shared, they'd be able to continue the conversations and continue the study that they've been doing in the classes in the larger community. So while it's a series of dorms, the colleges at UC Santa Cruz are unique in that we also offer classes. So the most important class that we offer is the class for all the incoming freshmen, and that is the core course, which everybody takes in the fall of their first year. We call it the Academic Literacy Curriculum, and it prepares students for the demands and expectations of reading and writing and analysis that they will be facing for the rest of their career. We have other classes as well for example, at Cal, we have a class on personal finance. We have classes on public speaking. And these kinds of curricula that all the colleges have are meant to develop the student as a whole person, not just a student who's going into a particular major. We offer research support and awards for student excellence in academics. And we also handle academic integrity. Now that's the side of the college that is led by the provost, the academic side. And the colleges also have a residential life side that is led by a senior director. And that's the person who's in charge of housing and dining and student conduct and that kind of thing. But what we're talking about, Danielle and I, tonight will be primarily about the academic side. And Danielle will be talking to you about the crucial function of the colleges, which is to provide advising to the students. So next slide, please.
Okay. So So Alan kind of gave you the big picture understanding of kind of the college system and structure. I want to start by talking a little bit more about the intent of academic advising at UCSC. So in line with the teaching and learning mission of the institution, academic advising is also a teaching and learning activity, and it has a series of learning objectives that are associated with it, developmental activities that students participate in during their time here. So we've organized those learning objectives in a way that lines up specifically with milestones that help a student kind of gauge their progress and figure out, am I on track as they move through the institution? Academic advisors are available to support students as they develop educational goals and help them develop the detailed plans they need to achieve those goals and refine them as needed over time. Academic advisors also, the academic advising relationship typically breaks down into 3 primary categories: relational, informational, and conceptual. So we work with students in a lot of different ways. We support them, counseling skills are involved, but we're also helping them to really identify those goals and make those plans. So it has kind of a logistical component as well. We work with students holistically. So we provide information about requirements and deadlines, and that's the conceptual fashion. Also thinking about how to incorporate learning enrichment opportunities in their academic plan. And then the relational fashion by helping them understand how to become self-directed learners, make sound decisions as they move through the institution, which we know they're in a point in their life where they're evolving as humans, and we want to help them do that as well. Next slide. Okay, so at UCSC, students have a lot of advisors and counselors, which is great. They have a lot of support. And each of them kind of leverage a certain type of expertise that's a little bit different. So it takes some time for students to understand how to navigate that. All of these individuals are super imperative in helping students kind of navigate the process and make sure that we're supporting their success. Today, I'm talking more specifically about academic advising, those who are positioned to assist students when making academic progress towards earning their degree. So students have college advisors and department advisors. College academic advisors are housed in the residential colleges, like Alan has already talked about a little bit, and are considered generalists who know a little bit about a lot of things. Really good for helping students kind of exploring if they're undecided, choosing and qualifying for a major, tracking their performance and those milestones I mentioned earlier. We also advise on general education requirements and university requirements for big picture academic planning. Department or major advisors are housed in the academic divisions and departments and are specialists in the major and minor curriculum. So they focus on working with students understanding kind of the detailed nature of the major, course requirements and planning when it gets kind of complex, and special opportunities in the major. So how it normally breaks down is students might work a little bit more closely with their college advisors at the beginning of their career and a little bit more closely with their major advisors towards the end, but it's not always quite so cut and dry. So while academic advisors are super helpful in working with students on these academic requirements, there's also a number of other support advisors on campus, specifically our International Student Scholar Services. Those folks are really specialists on immigration-related policies, the question about the driver's license, those kind of really complex things that are specific to the international experience. Those folks in our global learning are the folks who are going to work on that and support that element of the student's experience. So we all kind of work together in a collective fashion to sort of leverage our expertise and support students. Next slide for Alan.
So when people ask each other about what they did in college, they almost always ask first, what was your major, right? And so we're all conditioned to think of college as the place where you majored in a specific subject. I majored in history, for example. My father majored in chemistry. But in fact, when we design the college education for the students, we have 2 things in mind. We want them to be able to dive deeply into one subject matter and learn its methodologies, its practices, etc. But we also have a set of requirements that are meant to develop a student in a more well-rounded fashion, so that they're taking subject matters in disciplines, in approaches to the world, and perspectives on the world that may be quite different from the major that they've chosen. So these are requirements that students have to meet in the realm of what we call the general education requirement. It may differ from country to country. I specialize in Japan, and it differs in Japan from the United States. But in the United States, one of the premises of employment is that a student who's being employed is being assessed not just for their preparation for their job, but for their ability to operate flexibly in the culture of the company or in the culture of the business that the company works in. So a well-rounded education is one thing that many employers are looking for here as well. So in generating the general education requirements, there is a committee on campus called the Committee on Educational Policy that interviews, talks with lots of faculty across the curriculum, from the sciences to the humanities, arts, and social sciences and whatnot. And they generate a document that they think comes to an agreement on what all faculty think a well-rounded education should entail. And then the Senate faculty, all the faculty who are tenure track or tenured faculty on the campus, vote on that particular set of breadth requirements that we expect students to have. So your students, when they're here, will not just be taking their major, but they'll be taking classes. It might be in the arts, again, it might be in humanities, it might be in social sciences, it might be in subject matters that surprise you, but our intention is to have them be able to develop skills in other areas. And so we have a number of types of general education requirements, these requirements that we hope are going to develop particular skills. So there's cross-cultural analysis, ethnicity and race, interpreting arts and media, mathematics and formal reasoning, scientific inquiry, statistical reasoning, textual analysis. And then we have a series of general education requirements that are called perspectives and practices. So learning about how different disciplines can approach the environment or technology or human behavior, and how different disciplines engage in practices of collaboration and public service. And then, of course, there are also writing requirements. So these are all the things that we think develop a well-rounded student who can, by virtue of that well-rounded education, excel even more in their field of choice. So that's the general education requirement. Don't be surprised if you find yourself with a student taking a class in, say, Japanese history with me. Next slide, please.
And they're likely to enjoy that class, as all students report that they do.
I hope so.
Kind of playing off that idea of coursework and curriculum, considerations for students in choosing classes. We have a couple of guidelines that we like to kind of review. Your student has received quite a bit of information already about enrollment, and at this point should have already enrolled in their courses for fall. But some things we encourage students to consider when choosing courses, especially in their first few quarters, is to be willing to explore by taking subjects where maybe they haven't had exposure to that in the past. Maybe trying a discipline outside of their comfort zone, something that varies from maybe what they're trying to do as far as qualifying for a major, if possible. Sometimes certain curriculums, certain academic paths allow for that a little bit more than others. But we will say, you know, many students do change their initial academic plans, and that's totally okay and very reasonable and happens often. It's really common for students to be undecided or to learn that they have interests and strengths in areas other than they thought initially. In fact, there is some evidence out there that folks who do change their major have higher graduation rates, graduate at a higher rate. So that's good news, but what we do recommend is that students really explore with intention and do it early. So explore different subjects. You know, think about having a primary major and making sure you have an idea of like what could be a potential backup major if maybe that doesn't pan out. Being really open, like I said, to trying other things. Like Alan mentioned, you know, we really want a well-rounded, you know, experience for students as far as their educational disciplines are concerned. And that's the kind of concept behind the GEs. And a lot of students find they actually learn that they're interested in a topic because they took a couple GEs in an area they weren't exposed to previously. So what we also will mention, though, is it's very important to take very seriously major qualification courses. All majors have some set of qualification criteria that students need to meet to be eligible to declare. A lot of times that involves, you know, receiving certain grades and certain coursework, making sure not to have a certain number of failing grades in that said qualification coursework. And so some of our folks in our sciences, engineering, physical, biological sciences do need to kind of get started on that work right away to make sure they can find out if that's going to work out for them and make their academic plans accordingly. There are a wide range of support resources for this for your student: tutoring, you know, counseling and support groups for the folks that might be experiencing test anxiety. There are a lot of resources for the sort of remote learning experience. I think folks have sort of mentioned some of those already. And there's just a lot of information that your students have been provided, and they can always go and ask academic advisors if they feel like they need some more support in making decisions around choosing classes or making decisions around which majors they might want to be pursuing. So we encourage folks to reach out when needed, because it's a lot, but it's exciting, and students do have a lot of resources available to them. Next slide. Just a quick note, Alan kind of alluded to this already, but just kind of this concept about selecting a major at UCSC. Just, food for thought that all majors at UCSC teach important transferable skills that are super valuable in the workplace or in a postgraduate program. Critical thinking skills, analytical writing skills, communication skills, time management, problem solving, leadership, presentation skills, all these things. Every major is designed to really help a student evolve in these ways through maybe a different set of curriculum. So we really encourage folks to think about not being super tied to a particular major, knowing that there are activities they can do outside the classroom that will really enhance their resume and their repertoire, that they'll do internships, field studies, research, maybe work closely with a faculty member on a research project. And those things really help to make a well-rounded graduate. And it's not just about their major in terms of what they do when they are completed here. So just to kind of think a little bit more broadly about how a major applies to postgraduate plan. Next slide. Okay, and then just thinking about like what has happened as far as advising activities and outreach for your students so far. We know that students are not always, the best at sharing information with their parents and families. So we just want to make sure everyone's up to speed on what they've received so far. So far, a series of online orientation sections, 2 heavily focused on academic advising and enrollment, and 1 brand new credit bearing component this year, which I believe somebody may have spoken to already. A welcome letter introducing them to their college provost and advising team. So as Alan mentioned, he's the provost for Cal. So Cal students would have received something introducing him and their academic advising team and the college. An opportunity to attend an online group academic advising session, and then follow-up from their academic advisor if they see anything in their academic schedule for fall that doesn't look particularly right. If a student's taking an upper division course as a first-year frosh, that type of thing. So we kind of do some troubleshooting early on. And then soon there's going to be an opportunity for all incoming new students to have another online group advising session to meet their academic advisors virtually and have them be able to ask questions and things like that. So that'll be super important. That's a mandatory component that's happening, and they will receive information about that. And then a final point, I mentioned this already, but if students are feeling lost or confused as they get situated in fall, they can really always start by contacting their college as their first point of contact, kind of their home base. If they're not sure where to go, the college is really great at kind of assessing the situation and getting the student to the right place. So they should never feel shy about reaching out. We're happy to be there, happy to support. And I know everyone's really excited to meet your students this fall. So we're just really looking forward to that. Next slide is Alan's.
So on Wednesday, I'm going to do what's called the opening plenary session to the core class. That means I'm going to meet all of the students in the incoming students at Cal College all together. We won't be in person because that's not, we're not able to comply with COVID regulations that way. So it's going to be online. But in the past, I used to do it in person. But I'll tell the same story this year. So one of the things that I talked to them about, besides what the class is about and how to succeed in it and all, is really about the helping them to formulate for themselves a vision of what their university education is about. How are they going to sort of plan to go through this time here, make the most of it, and then be as well prepared as they can be to succeed in whatever field they might want to pursue when they come out. So I talk about how, on the one hand, universities are about credentialing, right? You get a diploma, and along the way to your diploma, you get grades, A's, B's, C's, etc. And those are important, particularly the diploma. There's no question that if you don't have a diploma, that can be an impediment to certain kinds of jobs. Students often anticipate that their grade point average is going to be really determinative about their ability to get a job or even to get into graduate school. And that's a little bit less so, although grades do give some kind of predictability to a performance of a student. So credentialing is one of the things that they're going through, but it's probably not the most important in terms of their future opportunities. We often think of college, university as a time when students are being trained for employment. It may not be employment in a particular area, but they're gaining skills, they're gaining critical thinking, communication skills that are going to be crucial to employment in the future. And so if they're thinking about that, then the credentialing is certainly something to worry about, but they might be focusing a little bit more on the kinds of skills building that they want to have going into the future. And one of the things you want to pay attention to when you're building skills is sometimes information that says that you're not doing well in a skill is as valuable as getting information that you're doing well in a skill, right? So this is what I say to students who come to me crushed that they've gotten a C, they've never had a C before, they've failed a class. And I say a lot of learning comes through those kinds of hard struggles with a subject. So instead of focusing on the credentialing, focus on the lessons that you can learn from this about where you need to go in the future. So that's another thing I talk with them about. And that really leads to what we all think is the fundamental purpose of the university, which is education. The credential is meant to be a sign that you've gotten an education, and that with that education, you'll be able to function well in the world. This illustration here we have on the slide comes from a story that I tell the students about a time when I was at a gala. Yes, as a provost, I get to go to gala events. And I was sitting at a table with the honoree for that night, but far away from her, seated next to the husband of her cousin. And I asked him who he was, and he said, and what he did. And he said he works for human relations in a large Silicon Valley company with global business. I think it began with a vowel and ended with a vowel. He wouldn't confirm that. In any case, I said, well, I've never had a conversation with an HR specialist before, but one of the things that we in the humanities often do is we'll read these articles in Forbes and Business Insider and whatnot, written by CEOs in which they talk about how Silicon Valley needs to hire more humanities majors. We need better writers. As a humanities major, who's often struggling with students and parents who think that the love of literature or history is going to doom them to a life of service in fast food and coffee shops. I said to this guy, is this true? Does Silicon Valley want to hire humanities majors? The CEO doesn't hire them, you hire them. So tell me if this is true or not. And he said, when I'm hiring somebody into my company, they're never prepared fully for what they're going to need to do in that company. I'm going to have to spend some time training them, even if they're computer science majors, right? So that's an investment that the company is making in that student, in that new hire. And that means they're going to want to keep that person in the company as long as possible for return on that investment. And as they stay in the company for longer, they get more expertise in the company, and that makes them more valuable employees as well. That's one of the reasons that salaries go up over time. And he said the key thing in this, in being able to keep somebody in a company for a long time, is to have somebody who can move laterally throughout the company. You might hire them into a research and development division, but after a few years there, he might move them to a marketing division or to human relations division or some other such division in the company. And as they move laterally, they bring the skills from the place they were before, learn new skills, new perspectives into that new area, and of course, learn the company better. So he said, the really important skill that I need from my new employees is that they're capable of teamwork, collaborating. They're capable of adapting to new situations, right? Because that's gonna be what makes them capable of operating in the company as a whole. I need critical thinkers, people who are able in that adaptable moment when they're facing new challenges, who know how to work with the team to reassess a problem, not from a patterned form of thinking that comes from a major perhaps, but comes from that adaptability. I need them to be professionals. I need them to be self-motivated. And he said to me, it turns out that humanities majors do pretty well in that, because they don't come into a tech company like ours with the expectation that they're going to rise based on their tech skills. They come in with the expectation that they're going to rise in the company by virtue of being adaptable and learning new skills. And that doesn't mean that computer science majors don't do well in those companies. Sometimes tech majors come into companies like the tech companies, and they are so confident in their technical skills that they lose sight of the necessity of learning other skills in the company. And so he said, I hire tech people all the time, but I do look for people in the humanities because they're going to have the adaptability that I need. They're going to have the skills, and because of the background, they're going to be distinctive. One of the things that you'll hear a lot, and it's not just flowery cover talk, companies recognize their need for diversity, and that's diversity of perspective, that's diversity of ethnicity and gender and whatnot, but it's also a perspective of skill sets. So I say this to parents in particular because if you are worried that your student needs to be able to come out with a major that's going to get them a career in a high-paying job, and you are suddenly alarmed that they decided to major in, well, Japanese history because they love my classes, I want you to know that I'll be training them, and the college advisors will be talking to them about making sure that they're setting themselves up for success in whatever field they go into, because it's the adaptability, it's the teamwork, it's the critical thinking, and it's the self-motivation that make all the difference. So you will be getting your students will be getting lots of advice about how to succeed in the majors, how to go through the program and not have any snafus with the regulations and all. But I think Danielle and I both share confidence that our advisors and our faculty are very good at talking with the students about the whole person and the developmental advising that's going to help your 17, 18, 19-year-old emerge from this as an adult who will be empowered to have a wonderful career.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alan and Danielle. That was wonderful. Are there any questions from family members before we let them go?
We were just so clear.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
Any questions?
Here comes one.
That's what it's like, Danielle, when you're an advisor, you're clear.
Right, but we strive to be clear and make everything make sense. No, we understand this is a lot of information, but I think that if you could take anything away from what we're talking about, like, please have your student reach out if they need support in kind of thinking about these things, because everyone is ready to be there for them and provide them with the resources they need.
Yes, get to know your advisors, get to know your professors, and then get to know upperclassmen who have a lot of experience that can really help them thrive.
Great, thank you so much. All right, and with our last 10 or 12 minutes, we'll turn now back to global engagement. And as I mentioned before, both global programming and international student and scholar services are here to support your international students. And Victoria and Adrian will tell you a little bit more about what each of our teams provides. Victoria.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Lisa, and hello again, everyone. So I'll do a quick overview of what we provide here at Global Programming. You can see in our slide kind of like a quick screenshot of our website. A lot of what we do is, of course, facilitate international student orientation sessions like the ones we just had for students inside the country and outside the country, and of course, tonight's family orientation session for all of you. We'll also be facilitating orientation sessions for our graduate students and having special sessions for our transfer students next week. And we will also be doing a follow-on orientation. These are extra workshops for your students to help them transition academically and culturally to UCSC. And as I mentioned earlier, we also facilitate our global mentorship program, which matches our first-year international students with mentees. And yes, so here's our slide with our follow-on international orientation support that we will be providing to your students within the next couple of weeks. And as we mentioned, next Monday is our international, we have our transfer student panel. They can learn about transfer student services, specifically for students who have transferred from other colleges or universities or community colleges. And next week, we hope to have our students who are on campus to finally meet their global mentors in person and make those online connections real. And in person, they will also have real talk sessions where they can talk about what it's really like at UC Santa Cruz. And we have a few more other, what we are calling culture sections in weeks 3, 4, and 5. These will be in person, but of course we will be following COVID protocol in person. We will also be providing refreshments for students there, and they will be getting Zoom links for some of our online session and other registration forms so that we know who is coming and that we can keep everyone safe as we cautiously move towards more in-person activities and events for our students. So essentially, what we do here at Global Programming is to support your students for any questions they might have adjusting culturally or academically to the US, just short of ISSS, which is a bit more immigration. Adrian, would you like to take this over?
Thanks so much, Victoria. I appreciate
You're welcome.
it. So as I mentioned before, ISSS and global programming work very closely in order to provide not only the immigration, the academic support, but also the whole well-rounded holistic approach to supporting your student. So for a lot of activities, even though they may have been being put on entirely by global programming, it is also in coordination with ISSS or vice versa. So the entire global engagement team as a whole is very close, very aware of the needs of international students. And the majority of the global engagement team actually has an educational background in working with international students, either from a counseling perspective, a master's degree in international education, or a master's degree in higher education, or we even have somebody who's working on their PhD at this time. So we are coming to you with a specialization of working with international students. So though ISSS is focused on assisting your student in maintaining their immigration status and making sure that they are aware of the rules and regulations surrounding their status, it's also important for them to realize that they can come to us either at ISSS or global programming anytime they want to, if they're not sure where to go, if they feel that they need some additional support, or if they just feel a little bit lost. So it's really important for your students to understand they are not alone on this campus. What they are going through, they are not alone. Challenges that they're going through, they are not alone. Successes that they've gone through, they are not alone. Accomplishments, they are not alone. So it is really us at Global Engagement and the university as a whole that create that platform to have your student build on to succeed and graduate from the University of California, Santa Cruz. One thing I would like to make very clear is we strongly encourage your students to reach out to us directly. It's not that we don't want to hear from the parents. We love hearing from you. However, due to some privacy rules, due to making sure that your students understand the requirements of immigration and ensuring that they can maintain that status, it's very important to us in ISSS that we are working directly with your students. Should you want to be on a call with your student, we would require that student to give us permission in order to bring you in and loop you in on that information. So if you send us an email and we reply, sorry, we can't tell you this information, or please have your student email us, it's not that we don't want to speak with you. It's really that we want to ensure that your students are comfortable coming to us, comfortable building that base, and really understand the rules and regulations surrounding their immigration. And so for us, some of the prime common topics, like I talked about, are employment, which is OPT, CPT, also discussing on-campus employment, making sure that your student is staying in compliance with the SEVIS regulations, ensuring any enrollment issues don't impact their immigration, cultural adjustment, resource referral, and really just building that excitement, building that confidence, and being there for your student. That is who we are at ISSS. That is what we do. And we are so excited to have you on this call tonight. We are excited to see your students in person. We will be offering both in-person and remote advising, and we are available. Please know that. Please feel free to reach out. And at this time, I'll have Andy go to the next slide of questions and answers. And I see the first question. Does the College One course fulfill the F1 requirement? So I'm assuming when you say F1 requirement, all of our students who have an initial I-20, which means they are not transferring from another school in the US, they're not doing an in-country change of status, they were not already at a different education level, have a requirement right now with the pandemic of at least one in-person class. Most of the College One classes are considered to meet that requirement if they are in person. I may have to refer to Richard and ask if most of our College One courses are in person. If not, I would suggest your student emails us and we are happy to check their enrollment and let them know if it meets the requirement or not.
So yes, the vast majority of College One courses are in person. Each college has at least one remote College One section because we know that not all students joining us this fall are going to be joining us in Santa Cruz. They may be joining us remotely and then planning to come to Santa Cruz in winter. But the vast majority of College One sections are in person, and your student should be sure to enroll in one of those sections. And they are, the schedule of classes when a student is enrolling will tell your student whether or not that's a remote course or an in-person course.
Thanks, Richard. That was helpful.
All right, we invite other questions about any of the topics we've covered tonight or anything else on your mind in our last 3 minutes together. Oh, there's a question.
So, in the world of immigration, rules and regulations change quite rapidly and without warning. Based on the knowledge that we have at this time, it is our understanding that the rules of at least one in-person course will be a requirement for all new students each quarter. However, one thing to be aware of is continuing students as it stands right now would not be required to be in an in-person course. However, referring back to what Richard was talking about, it is anticipated and has been announced that the majority of winter courses will be in person, and it won't even be as hybrid as it is at this time. So for students to have an in-person course for winter, it would be the normal and not the exception versus right now more so. Like Richard said, 2/3 are about in person right now. We're looking at even higher for winter.
Thank you, Adrienne. We invite other questions, and while we're doing that, we'll go to our last slide, which has our contact information. And Victoria is going to point out a couple of things here.
Yes. So as you can see, for those of us here at ISSS and Global Programming, we're all under the umbrella of Global Engagement. So we have the same office hours, 9 to noon, and again from 1 to 4 in the afternoon. Again, this is Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time. So if you need to reach out to us from other time zones, please be aware of that difference. And ISSS usually has very consistent advising hours, but sometimes there are changes. So please keep up to date and let your students know to keep up to date these advising times on our website. There are times for they can either do some drop-in, either online or in person, or make an appointment. And our website is global.ucsc.edu, or specifically for any immigration advice, isss.ucsc.edu. And our main phone number, if you call us internationally, is 831-459-2858. That will usually be answered by our lovely office manager, Madison Lucero, who wasn't here tonight, but she'll be happy to answer any questions for you. And she would direct you to the appropriate person with your queries. And we have our emails on here on the slide for ISSS and for Global Programming for all events. And I know maybe not many parents use social media, but if you are on Instagram, you can follow both ISSS and us at Global Programming on Instagram. And for those of you, if you do make it to the UCSC campus and need to visit the office, or if you want to encourage your student to visit the office, we are located in what is called the Classroom Unit Building, and the front office is room 103. The Classroom Unit Building is not as aptly named as some other buildings on campus, but that is where we are located.
It has some classrooms within the same building, so it's a little confusing. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you to all our panelists for joining us tonight. Thank you, parents, for joining us, and guardians and family members. Thank you especially for entrusting us with the education of your student. And it's our honor to support them as they adjust to life at UC Santa Cruz. Are there any last questions? All right, hearing no last questions, we'll end for today, and we will be posting with captioning in Korean, simplified Chinese, and English, and we'll share that link as soon as we have those translations. Thank you so much. Take care, thank you, and we hope your student has a wonderful fall quarter. Thank you.